Okay, we have Malcolm, is it? No.
Geoff Barnes is here.
Geoff. Yeah, thank you.
Used to work here.
Oh, there. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor,
How you doing?
councillors. I generally support the current charging regime. My memory, I worked for the City Council in the days when the Drainage Board was destructed and merged into the whole citywide City Council. Effectively a corporate structure taking two waters, it would be, or three waters, would be just adding water supply back to the functions of the Drainage Board. Now, for those of you who can remember it, managing those utilities under local government structure, but with a high focus on utility management, does deny many of the attributes of parks and ecological values for stormwater. So you need to be very careful about what is the brief for the CCO in managing stormwater. My primary concern is that a shift to a corporate structure with volumetric charging as the basis and a high focus on profitability, as companies are charged to do, will mean that problems which inevitably arise will be hidden from the consumers. They may well be known to governments, but they will be hidden from the consumers until things become chaotic. Wellington is a classic case. Auckland does have elements of that. Thames Valley Water, a classic case of hiding the problems. So they had illegal discharges into riverways, they had water supply blowouts, and they were still paying huge bonuses to the managers. It's an absolute chaotic state. Okay, that's privatised. They went from corporatised to privatisation, but the motivations are there. So be very careful what you wish for, because you could well get it and it becomes irreversible. Now, the report doesn't go into the practical issues, and I think that is the fundamental. Whatever you choose ought to be better than the current delivery option for service to the consumers. For instance, do you know now what is going out the ocean out for? What the quality of that? I guess only the fish know. But who's going to manage it when it's in a corporate structure? What are your KPIs? What are your performance standards that you're going to set for this company and publish them, and publish the reports regularly to the community, not just to the council, but in a form the community can observe how asset management and how service delivery is proceeding according to quality standards. Because many of these things, once one of these practices put in place, take a long time to reverse, and the consumer will always pay. The governance and management costs of a company will be higher than a council-operated scheme. The history of the Drainage Board showed it was a low-cost operation in a very shallow management structure. The old MED was a very shallow management structure. The general manager knew the foreman. I was here at the council. Ivan Crosby was managing water supply. He visited all the wellheads when they were commissioned. He visited the major blowouts, and it was there were only two layers between him and the blue-collar workers, and they had their team working from the Colombo Street yard. Management were in touch with what was going on in the field, and the communication to the elected members was very high. Can you guarantee that under any proposed change? It is the practical issues of service delivery, namely water supply. How are you going to extend the 74 million cubic metres consent limit? We're coming up to that, 60 odd million being pumped, 60 million being pumped, but 50 million going through the meters. The biggest waster of water is the council's own network. Now, you know that, but the KPIs need to register that, and it's not going to get any change. It's not going to change under a company structure initially. Where does the report address how it a corporate structure will address that supply issues. Our sewage treatment plant needs constant work. There have been recent problems. The ocean outfall masks, I get a whole lot of problems. Doesn't actually display it to the community. When it was being pumped into the estuary, you knew exactly what it was. Right now you don't. You assume things are going well until there's a major blowout. I've detailed what I consider to be some of the practical issues in my submission. Under the water supply volumetric, and I assume you would be going volumetric for sewage, that water in equals water out. Is that a fair and reasonable charging basis? Are you going to have a fixed and variable charge, or fixed and floating charge? On what basis is that charge going to be? These practical issues need to be resolved before a decision is taken. You need to take a view. I believe you need to take a view on it. The company may take a different view once formed, but at least have a view and communicate that view to the community to get reasonable feedback from them. The billing system has some real headaches in it. It's expensive to run, it is problematic. You no doubt have had a lot of complaints from your constituents over unreasonable bills, the unexpected bills. But when you get into a full cost recovery regime by volumetric, those issues will magnify. For instance, can you use the ratepayer database as your billing base for a company? What does the Privacy Act say about that? Is it possible? It is. Well, it's the whole basis, because can you say to a company, right, here, go ahead and do the job. Now, find out who lives at number 24, then number 25. Are they tenants? Are they landlords? Orion, the electricity system, that's been doing it for 100 years. In fact, council sold the billing system to Meridian, I think, for 350 million back in the early 90s. A nice little earner. But that took a lot of time to accumulate and gather, and it was very valuable. But you must make sure you can set up a company and have it with a working database. And when you go on to charging in arrears, in that year of transfer, are you going to give the consumers effectively a holiday, a cash flow holiday for a year? Or are you going to double charge them? You're going to charge them rates and water bills in the same year. You must, because you need to provide working capital to this company. All of that working capital adds to it. Form a company, and the first thing it's going to do is, well, we've got all these assets, let's borrow against them. Mm-hmm. The ratepayers will be carrying that debt. It will add to the 3 billion plus. It is in the nature of corporates with asset bases to borrow. They can't resist it, and they'll be promised it's easy to borrow and you get a good credit rating, blah, blah, blah. But it is the ratepayer and the ratepayer to capacity which gives us a Standard & Poor's credit rating. And to be frank, we're tired of doing it. It's too much of a burden to put on our shoulders. Manage the asset well, manage it and communicate the way you're managing that asset before you make decisions on corporate structure. Because frankly, that's probably the easy bit. It's the hard bit of asset management.
How are you getting on there, mate? Are you nearly there?
Nearly there.
Oh, good.
Consumers should not be charged a return on capital. It is the consumers, the citizens of Christchurch, the ratepayers of Christchurch, who have bought and paid for the asset base. They paid for it under when they bought their sections and development contributions. They put that part of the reticulation cost within on their property, servicing the property was paid for as part of the purchase price. Are you going to set up a company who's going to charge them again a return on that capital? That seems a bit double counting and a bit harsh. So if you're just looking at operating cost recovery, that's fine, but you can guarantee a company will be thinking, we own the asset, we're going to charge for return on capital of that asset. But it's our asset, just as the roads are the community's assets, maybe in the name of the council, but they were bought and paid for by the citizens of Christchurch. Development contributions. You collect development contributions from subdividers for part water, sewage, land drainage. How are they going to be dealt with? Are you going to pass those to the company? or you're going to retain them. But then how can you justify charging subdividers development contributions and yet not have that money applied to the capital costs? I don't see that was in the report. So there's so many practical issues that need to be detailed and disclosed.
That's great, Geoff. It's well run out of time.
Thank you.
But it is very good to have someone the same age as, I won't say the same age as me, that actually knows what the drainage board was.
Yes.
Because I did a lot of work for them. It was great. They're a great outfit. Really knew their stuff.
Yes.
So thank you very much for coming in and alerting us to a few issues.
Add also that Geoff was one of the rating experts in New Zealand. So he was an accountant here in the 80s and 90s, and when we were doing the Rating Act review and I was in DIA, he was the man.
He the man.
Department.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I wrote a fair bit of the policy, which
Yeah.
is tucked in the annual plan.
Good on you, mate. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay.
And good luck with the issues.
So I'll go to Malcolm